Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back. In my previous video, I was talking about how I came in contact with Islam when I was a kid. In this video, I would like to take you further down this journey and explore how it helped me form into the person narrating this story today. So remember in the previous video, when I met this person who said he was a Muslim, but there was very little proof to support this based on his actions and behaviors that were not adding up with how I experienced Islamic practice from good people. So, I was in my last year of college and went out to buy the Quran. And after I had just read the first page, I knew this came from Allah and Allah alone. So as intrigued and as curious as I was, I realized that compared to what I was taught in Bible lessons, this was the real thing. So reluctantly and curious at the same time, I read the Quran. And as I was reading it more and more, I came to realize that the sins that I did and also the punishments that are linked to it were very grave and serious. So when I was halfway there, I became very worried, afraid even, and conscious about my lifestyle. So I closed the Quran, put it away, and didn't read it for years. Now when I reflect back on it, I did not run away because of the Quran, but rather running away from my sins. I was about 23 years old at the time, then things started to get very interesting after a year or so. At some point during the night, I had a dream. I was prostrating in my dream, and behind me were two people. Behind my right shoulder was a school friend, and he was an atheist in real life. And behind my left shoulder, there was a cloaked person who joined me in that prayer. After we had finished praying, we looked at a painting on the wall. It was one of those nature paintings with mountains and woods and a river. But this picture came to life. The river was flowing, the clouds were shifting from one side to the other, and you could hear bird sounds coming from the painting. I looked behind my right shoulder at my friend, and before I could ask him, "Did you see that?" he was already smiling and looking at me as if he wanted to say, "Yes, I saw it too." When I looked at my left, the cloaked man was still there, his face hidden, and could not gauge any response as his face was hidden. I woke up happy and in good mood, however still wondering who the man on the left was. I dismissed the dream at that time and moved on. Not long after, I had another dream which was even more compelling. So in the dream, I woke up in a pitch black environment where I could not even see my own hands in front of my eyes. As I was turning left and right, I suddenly saw a pathway that was lit with olive oil lamps. Every 5 to 10 meters or so, there were two lamps on each side illuminating the path. Outside this path, everything was still pitch black. When I looked at the path, it first was a straight path, but at the end of it, it spiraled around a mountain from left to right until it reached the top. As I was standing in front of this path, I felt as if something was pulling me gently to walk this path. I woke up and could not make sense of the dream, and I dismissed it again. Things got more intense after that, but this time it affected my mother. On a peaceful summer day, my mother started to hear sounds from my room. When nobody was home at the time, she thought I had come back from college or something, so she went to my room. When she opened the door, there was a big gust of wind that came out of the room. The window was open, but the door on the other side was closed, so there was no possibility that this was a strong draft going through the apartment. She saw the cross being lifted from a wall, and as it was floating in mid-air, it got smited at the floor. Under my bed, she saw flashes of light, as if someone had lit firecrackers, but without the explosions. And in the middle of the room, she saw the Quran that I bought, floating in mid-air while the pages were being flipped over real fast. She became so scared that she closed the door and ran to the living room. It was about the same time my younger brother was arriving home, and he came back with some papers in his hand saying, "Mom, you should really close the window and the door. Look what the draft did." I collected all my brother's papers that I found on the street. She did not mention a word to him, worried that he wouldn't believe her anyway. Later, when I got home and saw that my room was a complete mess, I asked her what happened. As I saw her face, she looked afraid and worried and told me what happened. I dismissed the story and also attributed it to a draft. She asked me if she could put the Quran somewhere else, as she thought that the Quran was the reason for what happened, and I replied that I didn't mind. As long as she did not throw it away or anything like that, I don't mind. She had placed the Quran in the basement eventually, and it became quiet for a few months, and we did not discuss the incident until other things started to happen in the apartment that really got unpleasant for my mother when she was alone. Now keep in mind, what I have just narrated is what my mother had said to me. She was not the type or kind to make these things up, but to be honest, I wasn't really sure what to do with it, until Allah guided me to the answer, which I will tell you in my next and final part of this story, inshallah. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, alaikum salam.